Welcome back again. I'm going to get straight into this one. It's a garnet 7mm rub over, just a video to really show you basic setting with hopefully tools that you've got. Got a number 6 flat scalper, an old needle file that I've made a pusher tool out of, and a cut to safety back or barrette file, depends what you call it in your country. But most people should have these 3 stones. So for the first part, literally just narrowing down the edge of this collet, just to get a flat side that I can push onto nicely. This video as well, this is saying you can try it after you've actually got the stone to sit in the collet. You see how deep this is and how thick the wall between like the girdle and the top of the setting is as well. And I won't be using hammer hand pieces and things like that. I'm just trying to think about what tools you might have in your studio so that you can do this and just hope that it sort of becomes a lot easier for yourselves. So you see what this wall thickness. So this sort of starting at about 0.85, that top bit now 0.7. So this main part, literally always going to be pushing like opposite to opposite, sort of like north-east, north, south, east, west, and then sort of filling in all the gaps sort of one by one. You see on that bit, as I've done the first one, I kind of dislodged the stone a little bit, so I just had to straighten him up a little bit. So yeah, so it's north to south, west to east, and then just filling in the gaps. I think I did explain on the last video, but like if you have trouble pushing the edge over just by hand, you can file up, especially when you're doing like a homemade little pusher like this that isn't hardened steel, or not on the handle anyway. You can file it a lot narrower, and the narrower it is, the more sort of force you can get behind that, and it won't hurt your elbows as much. Your elbows won't be stinging by the time you've set a stone. So I've tried to rush through this just to show how quick it can be. People when I've taught over the years, I've shown them how to do this like in person, sort of people that have worked at the same places as me, and I've shown them this, and even at this stage I'll go back, see how they're getting on in like about an hour's time, because they've been a bit quiet. I've gone over and they're still not quite at this stage, so it does take some getting used to. And of course this sort of collet, especially if it's in a pendant already and a ring, either any piece of jewellery, as soon as that stone's in and secured, that top ledge that you've been forcing, like pushing down, pushing over, it's sort of work hardened quite a bit. So the more you push, the tighter like those crystals are going to be, and it's hard to push it over. So by filing it, it also helps. It just helps weaken that top surface, so that when you go around with the pusher again, it just becomes that little bit easier. And depending on what your stone is and how thick the collet is, you might go around that 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 if you're really having trouble. You just don't want it to go too thin. Something like this is probably down to about 0.55 or 0.56 or something. You see how much easier that is to get that next layer down. At the end of this video, like, if you have trouble doing these sort of things but you still want to make your own bits of jewellery and sort of make them look pretty, there are easier ways of doing a kind of rub over setting that you can get away with a lot easier. There'll be a little video clip just for a few seconds at the end of this video which will show you a similar sort of setting with the garnet, but just going over from different points so it looks like a sort of flower, sort of 6 or so petals, which can be varied. You can see that this is a lot easier now. Now I've sort of filed it down. The main part of a lot of these stone settings, if you go on places like Etsy, where a lot of people they'll start to try selling jewellery. Quite often when I see a round stone as a rub over, it'll be pushed over, buffed and polished, which is okay. If you do it like this, you've still got a nice neat circle that you could possibly get away with it, and it will still, your piece of jewellery will still look nice. But a more professional way is to actually use the flat scalper, sharpened very thin at the end, and actually do a bright cut, which you'll see me do at the end quite soon. I can't remember if I said at the beginning, but this is a 7mm stone. I can't remember if it was a couple of videos ago. It's like a 40 something minute long video. That's how to make a 4-claw collet. To make this collet that I'm using here, you can always watch the first bit of that. I'll put the link to that video in with this one, or at the end of this one. But even just by watching that first bit, of first 10 minutes or so of that, it will show you how to make like the perfect collet that you can do 100 different variations of. Just, yeah, if you can get that correct, you can make loads of stuff. But any questions or any trouble anyone's having, you're welcome to put a comment in, ask a question. You might think something that I'm doing's a bit crazy, or you might think, why has he done that? If I haven't explained it or missed it out, just ask. Any comments are good. So even this one, so I think this was like the 3rd round, but by the time I've done that last bit of filing, this is a lot easier. And because I'm zoomed in, you can't really see the angle, but this last bit, I really am. Before, the very first line, I was more like this sort of angle, sort of like a 30 degree, ending up on sort of in between that and a 90 degree. But this one, really just sort of trying to go maybe like an 80 degree, like almost going directly down just to push that ledge. See? So this is what I mean, even at this stage you could buff it up, polish it, and it'd look like quite a respectable bit of jewellery. Whether you're watching this on your phone or your TV, if you imagine just like a little 7mm dot on a 7mm circle on your hand, even like these little sort of just fractional sort of rough edges, by the time it's on your finger you're not going to notice that, and you would get away with that. But to do that bright cut inside is that's the professional sort of touch. And I think it was back in, I can't remember when I first used one, back like 1996. But it's one of the first things you learn, but it's like one of the last things that you master. Generally, that's what most people will tell you. But it's and it's not normally someone teaching you how to master it. It's something that it just clicks one day, and then you just get nice shiny bright inner edges, and it just makes everything that little bit crisper. So yeah, so I did start with a 400 grit sandpaper on this part, then this one's down to an 800, and at the end of this as well, I don't polish this at all. I literally leave it quite raw. So yeah, so a cut 6 flat scalper, and you'll especially notice here that I've as I go round the circle, you sort of do a backstroke. So if you do like a couple of millimetre at a time, you sort of spin it back and go on that ledge, then sort of go back a little bit further, back a little bit. You've always got to do a backstroke. If you don't do the backstroke, you end up with sort of like almost getting on for an octagon, the shape of the inside. But this is the way to just to get that nice clean inner circle. And you know, the same as all jewellery, when you look through your eyeglasses or one of those little headgear things or microscope, everything looks bad under that, but by the time you've finished and look at it, it all looks lovely. See, so even now, a lot more sort of backstroking. There you go. Right, I'll leave that one with you there. Don't forget the clip at the end is going to be what the next video is about. I'll probably talk through that one as well, or I might just do an intro and just let you watch that and see how I'm doing it. Just by listening to what I'm doing on this one, you can relate it to the next thing. But yeah, thanks for support. Thanks if you're watching for the first time. If you're watching for the first time, this is one of the most basic things we've done so far. Please do have a look back at some of the last videos before this that have sort of taken off and done quite well. I say, any questions, please comment below, like and subscribe if you haven't already. There's loads more like this coming up. Thank you.